Welcome, 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 everyone, to Living the Mystical Life Daily Webcast. Come on in, sit down, relax. Today, we're going to be having a whole bunch of things to talk about. We are going to be doing a Q&A after the presentation. So if you have any questions on Living the Mystical Life Daily or any of the subject matter we're going to bring up, go ahead and start putting some of your questions in so our team can curate them and bring them for the webinar. I thank everyone for being here. I'm Andrew Bartzis, the Galactic Historian. We've had a great time doing these webcasts now. This is our third one that we're doing. And we're going to remind people here, now, today, not yesterday, and not in the future, you have opportunities to make choice. We're not talking about material choice, esoteric choice, or any other practice of choice other than the individuated self coming to what is my life obstacle, what is my life challenge, and how do you overcome that? So many people don't know their life purpose. So one of my suggestions to you is to live each day the mystical life as part of your purpose so that you can position yourself in your greatest advancement. Learning how to position yourself is a form of spiritual strategy. So many people see the hierarchical order and they want to be out of it and they won't create a spiritual strategy, for there is some form of shame, blame, or guilt with them that they would use spirit in such a way, when in fact, spirit is waiting for us to engage our genius so we can create unlimited opportunities for us to have the promise of the self followed through in such a way that living the mystical life daily means something deep to you. In some of the previous videos, we talked about living the mystical life daily as a life path. We used the advanced heart meditation where we helped you put programs into your blood that allowed mystical experience, connection to your guides and guardians. And then we went deeper into the actual marrow that produces your blood every 56 days and brought in more deep inside your core. We talked about the shaman's death, letting go of the old, so ultimately the next set of choices can come into being and you can create a new future for yourself without hope turning toxic. What are the challenges that everyone faces out there? The first one is manifesting your will. The whole process of spirit, choice point making, soul family, twin flames, all that stuff is to manifest your will so you can touch it, feel it, and know that it's future now, real, heart-based with your interaction in it. The manifesting of will is one of those teachings that's been around since the dawn of spiritual progression. That manifestation of will that says, I will do this, and you follow through with your sacred discipline, your sacred heart space, and your ability to have that creation in your own process. So many people have programs of self-defeat that stop them from manifesting their will, such as shame, blame, guilt, and other processes that take even more of the greater aspect away from yourself. The whole process of manifesting your will is to see the programs of self-defeat and to say to them, no, you have no space for me. You have no action for me. I deny you self-defeat in any way, shape, or form from being in this moment of sacred will that I've chosen. Process that. Contemplate that. When you see your next set of challenges facing your own spiritual choices, what programs within you are of self-defeat, self-limitation, and say to your will, I will outcreate these, and I will uncreate those that take away. The next thing is the alchemy of creation. What does it actually take to go beyond the will, to use the strategy, to create alchemy of transmutation and transcendence for the self? That is the other spiritual practice that has been around since the dawn of spiritual exploration. Manifestation. Actual tangible processes that say, what is my will is now my way of life, And what is my way of life is my form of creation. Process that again. The alchemy of creation is the will of manifestation, so that the manifestation is your creation. There's a variety of ways to put that pattern together of manifesting your will, to stop self-defeating programs, or to outcreate those programs with the will of the self. Alchemy comes in the form of fire. Alchemy comes in the form of meditation. Alchemy comes in the form of walking in the park to transmute energy, to transform an old way of being. The transformation process are those that have gotten to the tactics, to the strategy of application of the self. The transmutation is the next level, where you can use your will of alchemy creation. And you can go into that transformative moment and use techniques like you learned in the advanced heart meditation, the fetus in your womb, or the fetus in your mother's womb, if you want to go for extra credit. In the process of learning in the fetus of the womb, it starts you as just a handful of cells. Before you had arms, legs, before you had even a mind, you were just a heart. And that very heart that is in creation is the same heart that's here today. It has just grown and grown and grown and grown until it was a fetus. And that fetus went through its infinite to finite creation process. Its fetus alchemy of creation. It manifested its will. It came out of the womb. Its umbilical cord was cut, and it had a mother and father, and spiritual contracts that made it an agenda-based being, and it was no longer a non-agenda being, for it had been born through the alchemy of creation, through the mother and the father and an insemination process. And that fetus to infant grew into the being that you are today, and that is something each and every one in this person in this world and many other worlds share, the birthing process of being the fetus in the womb. And we will learn as history comes to accept the greater outside world beyond this planet, that there are millions of schools of thought and religions around being the fetus in your womb, the fetus in your heart, or the fetus in your mother's womb, or the fetus in a future womb. The fetus in the womb features the ability to understand the 7 previous generations of who you were, and then those 7 future generations. Why 7? It is the lineage of man that is in residual race memory. About every 220 to 270 years, the residual race memory that's in a lineage is forgotten. For there is no oral teachers or historians that can reach beyond the 7 generations. You go to Australia and you look at some of the song lines that are there, they go back 50,000 years. That's thousands of generations. The indigenous cultures throughout the world had a variety of ways to pass the 7-generation mark. Those oral teachers and historians did rituals, ceremonies, and told stories that were a direct representation of what their ancestors experienced, so it would be passed on to the future generation, so they too could go to that longer process. What was in my ancient past? For they did not have race amnesia as we do today. In the fetus in the mother's womb, we also learn that we will one day pass this life on and be the next fetus in another womb and possibly in another world. We also learn that we are simultaneously living past, present, and future while we are the fetus in the womb. Taking the next level of your alchemy of creation and the manifesting of your will and the letting go of your self-defeating programs, you can experience past, present, future, if you should choose to make those moments sacred with the higher form of your sacred discipline. Now, if you have any questions on that, please take the time and put them in the chat room so our team members can bring those questions to me for later in the webinar. Okay? What I've described for you is the shamanic recipe for advancing your consciousness. Just like cooking a pasta or a veggie salad or whatever it is, you have that recipe. How you choose to do it, where you choose to do it, is the ambiance and contrast you are choosing as the individual self. For those that want to do it in a ceremonial fire, and that is what I recommend, for the alchemy of the fire will assist you at creating and advancing ability to dream with the joy of prayer. When we learn what advancing our ability to dream with the joy of prayer is, think about those words. The joy of prayer is its own massive definition. What does it take for a prayer to be joy-filled and not a demand from spirit, not an expectation for spirit? When we ask for help from spirit, that is one thing. But when we are sharing our joy of prayer, that is me in this ever-present moment, acknowledge the four-legged, the winged, the creepy crawlers, and all those other heart space beings who are living in this agenda-driven world in a process of hierarchical order. To the deer across the street that's about to give birth, I send my love to it from the joy of my prayer, and not from a strict strategy point of view. Though the strategy is what helped me understand that the joy of prayer needs the joyful creation behind it. It needs the inner genius, and that's the ability to dream. Connecting to that inner genius who can dream and daydream simultaneously with that joy of prayer. When you take this shamanic recipe of advancing your consciousness, you will have a greater understanding of the meal you want to create for yourself, the 7-course dinner of dreams you want to give to yourself. Can you do it? Can you challenge yourself in a litmus test? For those of you who don't understand the word litmus, look it up. It's a scientific term that tests acidity. Are you acidic to your own concepts? Are you in balance with them? Acidic means there's some form of resistance or rejection or some form of self-defeating program that limits your ability to use the inner sacred genius to look at the subject, define the subject, create a strategy behind it that will be used in the joy of prayer. That's the recipe. And everyone has that. Salt, pepper, marjoram, oregano, garlic, whatever you want to add is your joy of prayer, your strategy. Now, so many people ask, how do you have joy in ceremony? That's natural. When you like doing something, you're in joy. If you have a frowny face through your whole meditation and you're serious, are you really letting the joy into your body? Or are you containing it into the heart and the mind? So many people make that mistake of containing it to the mind. The fetus in the mother's womb asks that we visualize ourself as this being reducing in age to the fetus in the heart. When we learn to do that with true joy, meaning we are expressing love to that fetus who is still a part of us today, we are making direct connections to the past so that the present being feels their own emanation of joy. And that is the purpose of the joy of prayer. You emanate it. And just like a bat's echolocation or a dolphin or a whale that uses song in the ocean, our voice, joy of prayer comes back to us as creation, inspiration, and dreams. For we know innately our joy of prayer is constantly an ever-present moment here with us. Now, so many people have their own objections about being able to do this. I don't have time. I don't have the sacred space. I doubt myself. I can't flow with the information. And how the hell do I discern any of this stuff? Well, those objections are the common ones, are the ones that are easily created by the programs of self-defeat right away. There have obviously been times in every person's life where they had to get, I am serious, get a job, have children, grow up in life, and a variety of other scenarios that force them to say, I have to take time to do this. In this process of living the mystical life daily, we don't want you to be forced to do time. You got to do it on your own with joy behind it. So if one of your objections is, I don't have the time, why not? Why don't you have time to self-heal, self-nurture, expand your mind, go on spiritual journeys, practice the skills and strategy so that the joy of prayer means something within your ceremony? And the other one is, I never have sacred space. My family members are around. They're always judging and projecting on me. That is your limitation. Sacred space starts in the heart. You do not need all of the shamanic paraphernalia in your sacred space, but it does make it easier. It does put your imprint on it, and it does allow the joy of prayer to have a little bit easier flow. When you give yourself the time and the sacred space, even if it's just a bubble that's just around you, you can take care of the next one, which is doubt. I doubt I could do it. I doubt I have the time. I doubt I could create sacred space. You've given yourself time. You've given yourself sacred space. Now you must face where doubt comes from. Who imprinted doubt in you? I can't do this. I'll never learn this. Who created this and I don't understand it? Doubt, 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 doubt. Doubt is also a cousin to shame, blame, and guilt. Doubt is that gateway drug into self-defeat. Just by letting doubt in, you have taken away from the veracity and the capabilities of you to have no time, sacred space. In no time, we're disagreeing with time itself. We're saying that these moments that I am here now in my space that I've created, I'm going to flow with my information and not doubt myself. Now, there are a lot of people that get to the next part of the recipe. They've given themselves time. They've given themselves sacred space. They've done the best they could do to let go of doubt, and they just can't flow with the information. Whatever it is, they can't connect to their guide, their guardian. They can't connect to the eternal spirit. They can't stay in the joy of prayer for but a few minutes. That flow of information is ultimately determining your trust in yourself, because it comes down to discerning what you're saying. In the joy of prayer, it isn't about discerning what you're saying, because it is simply the joy of prayer. But there are times that prayer turns into self-demands of instant gratification. And that is where you must have the inner discernment to know that your flow may be being influenced by a heartstring that says, I have not accomplished this or this, and I must do it now. And that flow of information can go from the joy of prayer to the processing of pain and trauma. And the being may not know that they're processing pain and trauma while in the joy of prayer, or confusing the joy of prayer. This is where inner discernment uses strategy, tactics, transformation of the prepared self, so that there is a system of muscle testing, a system of self-information and discerning. All different forms out there. It is your choice to pick up discernment tools and to apply them in your sacred moments, inside your sacred space. So doubt does not limit the flow of information. And when we use those discerning tools, that flow of information goes from a little tiny trickle to the great river flowing through our heart with an unlimited potential. What are discerning skills? Muscle testing, using of cards, rune stones, or any other spiritual practice out there that is based for discerning energy around you. People are asking me, cards, this, that? Heck, it can be a deck of playing cards. It can be anything that you want. But you must begin to use it in a form of strategy so that the flow of information isn't interrupted, but modified by it. so that you aren't going down mind trails and tangents into something that may lead you into a negative path of polarity or charge, as opposed to leading you into the observation and the understanding of it with no charge or polarity on it. The flow of information is how well you maintain sacred neutral point of view. When you are in the discerning self, you know when you're in sacred neutral, and you know when 1 word, 2 words, or 10 words in your flow suddenly changes it from sacred neutral to, hey, I'm a little bit pissed off and maybe I need to go out of the sacred neutral, expand and explore that charge with the joy of prayer by reducing it. Here's an example. So many people get stuck between the head and the heart. They're in that fetus in the womb, and they have this expectation that they're going to have this mystical experience. And in that mystical experience, they aren't even discerning that they're creating an expectation. So here's a technique. When you're on that blissful joy flowing of the fetus in the heart, allowing the joy of love to come and echo back into your body, and you want to take it further and it isn't going any further, from the center of the eminence of your heart, see your own mouth, words coming into your heart, that you are creating discerning energies. What does it take for this soul being fetus now to take the frequency to a higher level? I look inside myself with discernment. What programs are limiting me? Is there a time in my childhood that said, I cannot be successful with spirit? Is there a time in something that I was in fearful of the mystical? Begin to use the strategy of know thyself, direct application into the now. So the discerning flow of information has zero doubt and is enforced and modified by the sacred space and the ability for you to create time to go and do this. So there are no conscious objections based within the parasympathetic each and every time you want to go out and do this stuff. That is ultimately the mechanics of all spiritual practices broken down into these handful of words: giving yourself time, giving yourself the sacred space, the elimination of doubt, the flow with information, and a discerning process of tactics and strategies that apply to transformation and transcendence. You are the transcendent being who needs transformation, transmutation. And for transformation and transmutation to occur within you, you need a basis, a flow that says, I have a tactic, I have a strategy that I am applying with my sacred neutral self to grow my mystical life daily, to have a life path beyond my life purpose, with the fullness of myself engaged in it. So now if you have questions about that, I would like for you to go ahead and put some of those in the chat room here so our team can curate them. I just got a quick sip here. So over the many years, I've had all varieties of people come to me: business professionals, spiritual teachers, sports personalities. And I want to share a story with you. Now, a little over 2 years ago, I was in a session and I had a gentleman communicate to me. And this gentleman was a trainer for a hockey team in the United States. Now, he had traveled around the world and he had studied Chinese medicine, he had studied massage therapy and a variety of other things that directly applied to the injuries or the wounds or the damage that would occur just from playing hockey. And this gentleman was an outstanding healer, but he wanted to get to his next level. And he knew that his job, which he loved and gave him a great source of income and travel, was its own limitation. Though they did allow some form of alternative therapies in there, there was a direct, hard cutoff line. And this gentleman had a hard time removing that cutoff line from him so that he could go to the next level. Now, over a handful of handful of sessions, I helped him create the recipe of ceremonies that separated ultimately his medical work from his spiritual medical work. And I use these two worms and I combine them because I see him as a spiritual doctor. one that not only sees the physical wounds of repetitive workouts and injuries that come, but the spiritual wounds that are behind them, forcing oneself to evolve over and over again. And this was a common theme in many of the personalities that he treated in the hockey industry. So they were forcing themselves to get more muscle, to build more strength, and not acknowledging what else was going on there. So we had this long conversation that talked about the fascia in the muscles. Now, the fascia is what connects the muscles. It's the webbing around the muscles. It ultimately determines how the muscles are compacted or retracted and open or closed, and how much fluid's in there, and how much pain you have on the muscle. So he went deep into understanding the fascia, and he took cranial sacral and a variety of other myofascial release stuff. And I said to him one day, you have to cross that line. What you do in your private practice when the season is out and the miracles that you create, you can directly have them. You simply needed to ask those that are working. And there was a particular gentleman that he was training and working with that had a knee injury, and the knee injury needed surgery, and the fascia around there were horribly affected. And he went into that, and he was able to get that gentleman 3 months early from his injury, back to being on the hockey team, back to being the professional that he was. And he found himself at the end of that season wanting to be hired by another team and another team, until suddenly there was this contract offer between several teams that wanted him there. And it wasn't just because of having one person get back. It was the way he implemented the science of the fascia, explained it to the people, the teams, so that healing could occur at a faster rate. It was within those ceremonies that I helped him to describe that created the language to talk to people that were in science of medicine, so that the spirit, the passion of the spirituality converts directly and translates to those beings you're trying to communicate to. Those are some of the examples of how ceremony helps you at the higher level to define the manifestation of what you need in your life. And another story I'd like to bring up is business professionals. A lawyer I've had many, many lawyers come to me that have their own group of spiritual issues. But in this story, it was very similar to the gentleman from hockey. He was trying to, how do I put this? Bring what was lawyer knowledge and what was spiritual knowledge to a group of clients to create an investment group. Now, this isn't about courts, it's about creating the investment group and bringing in fourth density personalities, fourth density ideologies, and to literally create a company from the lawyer level, ground up, that reflected a greater community view. Now, he had a tough time pitching this to other lawyers, tough time pitching this to other professionals, until I helped him understand he had to not pitch it and sell it to not but himself, but to the universe. The universe is waiting for his mystical experience. And it was about helping him convert what was lawyer knowledge and put him in a spiritual court of equity with all of his ancestors present, so every aspect of this ideology that he was creating could come to direct manifestation through his own voice, through his own continued writings, so that he had a greater reflection of how to actually present it to third density minds who know they want to do good, but were just unable to see beyond their unknown areas. That is their limitation. And when he began to tackle the limitation of what he was looking at as people, investors, he was able to create the finance that he needed. He was able to create a company that has products, that is now a leading in the industry of these companies that are saying, I am going to create companies and buy companies that are existing and begin to change the culture within. You know, we see this at Google and all sorts of other places where they have, workout places, meditation, people that come because they want employee health. Employee spiritual health is just as important. Giving them the time and space to practice their own without judgment or hindrance or scorn from anyone within it. This lawyer was able to create rules, policies, procedures, and documents so everyone can see that's coming in and out of the company as a legacy what the vision of its creators meant are. Now, spiritual teachers, they go through the same thing. From a variety of teachers from all over the world have come to see me, not because they weren't able to do their work, it's because they wanted to get to the next level. And that their own students around them were locked into position, not giving away their power to the guru or the teacher, but stuck, not because of the limitation of the teachings, because the next level wasn't explored. And I want to share a small story about equal co-creation. Now, as a teacher from Germany who leads spiritual retreats all over the world, spiritual journeying, shamanic understanding, leads ayahuasca ceremonies nonstop. And for this individual being, it was about getting to the next level of how you can combine the master students, the master teachers, into a form of dream sharing. And this came down to the words equal co-creation, non-competition, non-hierarchical order, something that's throughout the Living the Mystical Life Daily online course. In equal co-creation, non-competition, non-hierarchical order, the student and the master sit in the same seat with equal strength, sharing their unseen and seen worlds, knowingness and unknowingness, going on the same journey, no one greater than the other. When he began to make these applications of equal co-creation, non-competition, non-hierarchical order, the students and the masters discovered non-duality, non-separation, that they were I am living dream beings now and were able to share their mystical experience in their tight-knit group. This is something else that has been practiced since the dawn of spiritual creations. Equal co-creation, non-competition, non-hierarchical order, non-duality, non-separation. You could make that your own mantra to help affect your programs of self-defeat. You can use that as your own mantra to create the sacred space. You can use that in any way, shape, or form that helps eliminate charge or polarity. But then there are times you must use equal co-creation to look at charge and polarity and to actually dive into it and say, where does this exist within me? For an equal co-creation means the spirit and the unknown and the seen and the unseen world are working with you. And every shovel full of self-dirt, you're coming up until you find where that program of self-defeat was and why it had some form of influence, charge, and polarity during your joy of prayer. Now, there are a lot of myths out there. And I think the most important thing to understand about myths is who created them. Who created a myth? What are myths? In the old days, it was the stories that were passed on from the indigenous teachers and elders and story keepers that were beyond the 7 previous generations, that were not immediate race memory. And there were specific stories that kept and held creation of the myths that were passed down, that we had a physical link to when we awoke from a fetus in the womb, and we began hearing those stories from the time that we were young to the time that we grew old, and we took our own process and understood what those stories were. Now, what I'm talking about is the myths of today. The first myth that I want to bust with you is expectation, expectation, expectation. For as long as you have expectation, there will be a limitation. So breaking the myth here is breaking expectation as a general process within yourself. It is expectation that pretends to be precognition. What is the big difference between expectation and precognition? Here's an example. Of the 7,300,000,000 people in the world, you cannot get a single collected view of what the color green really looks like, or blue, or red. And the same group of people that might experience a scenario, if you have 100 people in a room and a person runs through naked, 100 stories will be different. And some of them the person will be wearing clothes. What we perceive. Our mind fills in the blanks based off of what programs are running. Contrast, charge, polarity, contrast, charge, polarity are constantly in our environment. And expectation is directly linked to our adrenal glands, that we are ready as the fight flight mode. In my expectation, if I need to put my fist up to punch something as the naked man runs by, those are an examples of highly charged expectations. Now, subtle expectations. That's waiting for the mystical to occur. So many people come to me with this. I've practiced my meditations, I've done the fires, I've done all this. And yes, I'm using a mocking voice because ultimately they have an expectation of instant gratification. Instant gratification is going to be one of the hardest things to detoxify yourself from. It is like a drug to you. How do we let go of expectation? We embrace it. We allow our embracing of expectation so that our tactics and strategies take the subtleness of expectation and create an action plan, where we then transmute the tactic, transmute the strategy into knowingness of what to do now, so the mind doesn't have to fill in the blanks. See that as an algorithm. A plus B, so the mind doesn't have to fill in the blanks. The expectation itself is the limitation of the moment. Now, so many people are waiting for that mystical experience, 20, 30, 50 years, and it hasn't come. And then there's the subtleness of self-defeat within that. I've had 10 years of practice and never had anything happen. I beg to differ. I say that you've had millions of things that have happened to you, and it was your subtle expectation of the mystical to be expected and defined in your mind that is filled in the blanks that says, this is the only way I can accept the mystical. The mystical is in every day. It can be walking in the street and the two eyes connecting in the single spark of a moment that connects twin flame lovers. Or it can be the phone call that comes during a show because I forgot to turn off the phone, that is also triggering something within the greater process of myself. And I use that as an example because so many people's expectations are beyond their mystical moment, which is something that is in the self-defeating programs. This is why you turn off your cell phone. You make the room sacred enough for you to let down and open up. Because there are expectations subtly in our field is, did I pay the tax bill? Did I call my mom back? Did I do this? 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 And a variety of other things that lead us down mind trails that take us out of the sacred moment that ultimately defeats the mystical experience because you didn't have a vision. You didn't experience it. It was no more than the lighting of a match and it going out. And that's not enough for you. And that's the next level of expectation, creating a limitation from the mystical experience. Your expectation sets a value and a bar at how much mystical your ass needs now. No, you get what you need in the moments that you need. And when you are truly open to the mystical experience, it is an unlimited flow, but it'll be your choice to break expectations and the programs of self-defeat, to store that energy in your lungs, your liver, your heart, all of your intestinal tract, your organs, your skin, your body, and to say that this is my energy to hold and to use for my mystical experiences so I can process them and understand them and not rob myself to pay another part of another experience that has nothing to do with my mystical. This energy for the mystical is for my mystical. The strategy I created, the tactics I created, the transforming energies, the ceremonies, the victories, the understanding and knowing of thyself has freed my will to dream, to learn, to know, to let go of expectations, to have vision that doesn't I vision. The vision comes in so many forms. I have a vision of creating a business. Or I've had a vision of a friend coming to visit me. I've had a vision of a mystical experience. I've had deja vu. Those are some of our perceptions that have limited expectations within them. When we've done enough sprint running and erasure of our expectations, we've sprinted fast enough beyond our expectation, the mystical is there waiting, like flowers waiting for us to pick them and smell them. There is always free will, but you must understand you must earn and learn free will. So many people give away their power every day, and they don't even realize how they give away their power. We do live in a world of duality. We do have a dream time, and we do have disinformation in this world. The free will to choose disinformation, to choose dream time, to choose true information is your choice. As an agenda-driven being, when you are born as the fetus that becomes an infant, that infant has a DNA. And inside that DNA is a blueprint of all the potentials that the fetus dreamed up. And all potentials represent the spiritual contracts. Who's your first grade teacher? Who's the person that's going to change your ninth diaper on the 4th day of your birth? All that's planned out because it means something to the fetus who is growing their ability to see the world. You know, when a baby is born, he's looking at his hand, he's trying to figure out how it works. All those things interact with that fetus that is now an infant, that is going to grow older to be you, who will live in the world of duality and have to make a forced separation and change to be in duality. For the fetus to the infant is not in duality. They are in dream time. And that is your legacy. And that is a myth you must bust within yourself. I have a legacy to my dreams, and nothing can take it away from me. You must earn, learn, and relearn and re-earn your free will to choose non-duality, dream time. And no matter what the information is, true, false, neutral, it is how you discern it, take it in, use it as part of your strategy and tactics to create the joy of prayer, to create your ceremonial prayer grounds that is just for you until such a time you want to bring others in it so that you can go to the next level. Now, if you have any questions on that, please take the time and write the questions out, put them in the chat room so we can hold them for the end of the webinar. All right. The opportunity here today is ultimately learning some of the more basic key ingredients to the shaman's recipe book. Now, one that I have stressed over and over and over again is spiritual hygiene teaching. Just as important as changing your sheets, just as important as doing your laundry, just as important as vacuuming your car and washing it, just as important as washing the dishes, just as important as your morning coffee cup has been cleaned, so on and so forth. Spiritual hygiene applies to all of those things that you're thinking, well, what does spiritual hygiene mean? The metaphorical combing of your hair, the shaving of this and that, those are all parts of spiritual hygiene. So spiritual hygiene needs action within it, and it needs intent behind it that says several times per month, I'm going to do a clearing and cleaning ritual on this individual self, the home that I live in, the bed that I sleep in, the car that I drive in, the family members that I live with, the lands that I live on. Those are the strategy and the tactics that one, when using spiritual hygiene teachings, begins to understand we are all sharing the dirty energy underwear environment. And I use those visceral words because we are all exchanging dirty energy underwear, not necessarily in this moment, But when you're at work, you're in traffic, or you're in that state of expectation, limitation, and not fully in your will, programs of self-defeat are running, that is when the pollution occurs. The spiritual hygiene teaching is to look at the spiritual pollution that is created by others and yourself and begin to clean it up. So it is not a part of your ever-present co-creative moments. So at a snap of the finger, you can be in the mystical and not have to go through the membrane of the dirty energy. So when one emanates the spiritual hygiene teachings, truly is an emanation of that energy, there's no longer emulation. They are actually doing that. And that is the other most important thing to learn on one's spiritual journey, no matter what ideology, spiritual practice it is. If you are not truly emanating the teachings that are coming from you, from knowingness of practice and sacred engagement, you're just pretending. You are just emulating what others are doing. You are not being a thought leader of yourself. You are being a follower and a conformer of what other thought constructs were created that have said, here's your limitation. Emulate for the rest of your life, or learn to emanate and pass the teaching to yourself and future self that says, I cannot live in emulation of the others. I must emanate myself. And when one emanates the spiritual hygiene stuff, they're able to engage the sacred neutral versions of them past, present, and future selves. So they can create sacred moments that last and truly create change. Because the spiritual hygiene says, I will own myself before I go to sleep. I will own myself as soon as I wake up. These 5 concepts, no matter what spiritual practice it is, it has no dogma behind it. It has nothing else other than the ideology of the self. Each day I go to sleep, and each morning I wake up. Those are my moments. The system and the external cannot imprint upon me right away. But so many people are brought up. 6 a.m., you got to get ready for school. Knock, 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 mom on the door. Until 5 years later, the knock on the door is you're pissed off at your mom because you want to sleep in. So many of our natural ways of self-engagement have been taken away by the way our world works. When we own our world, and we know that mom's going to come at 7 a.m. or the bus, or you've got to get into their car, you get up a little earlier. You own those moments before you go to sleep. You bring your spiritual prayers in. You bring your joy of prayer in. And then in that morning, the goal is to feel your own emanation of prayer from the past self, passing on the torch of emanation to you, the one that's waking up, so that you can make even more sacred moments that last and create inner change in yourself, so that deep down in your core, you know you are emanating and not emulating. Conscious, sacred, neutral engagement of your past, present, and future self is the form of spiritual hygiene teaching by owning your environment. Now, if you have any questions on owning your environment, please take the time to put them in the chat room. How does one truly create change? Change comes in so many forms. The keys to success in creating change is knowing that you are creating a moment that lasts. Now, this is in essence passing on a teaching, one that I've learned over and over and over and over again, learned and relearned, earned and re-earned, learned and re-earned, earned and re-earned over and over and over again, because I engaged ceremony with a sacred discipline of joy. That was my beginning of the process of understanding what ceremony was. If I could not do it in joy, no matter what the strategy or tactics or transformation is, I am not doing it right. Joy is the foundation, and it will be joy that makes your sacred creations last, because your memories of light are filled with the color of that joy. That's the basic level. The next level is bringing heart-spaced joy, and then mind and heart-spaced joy, where we can engage the sacred genius. So many of you have had these sacred genius moments and just don't recognize it. It's a moment of pure bliss and ecstasy that you have, damn, I just did the perfect thing. Caught the perfect pass, hit the perfect ball, closed the greatest deal. You're high, full on yourself. Even the ego's working with you. In sacred moments, you can engage all the forms of the self to have that winning moment. When you allow the emanation teaching to flow through you, when you engage your sacred neutral self, past, present, and future, and you protect yourself going to sleep and waking up. So when you're in that moment in business, pitching a sale or starting a new business and need to create your business plan from top down, you can do it in joy, so that each time you go back to it, that joy energy is waiting to engage you to make the project fun. So many people are brought up in school that it's never fun. It's always work. As long as it's work, you'll never be able to assemble Voltron, connecting the system of teachings into the a la carte method. Now, for those that don't know Voltron, and I hope a lot of you do, that is 5 separate robots from a cartoon that formed one bigger robot that had a big sword and went and defeated enemies. In this essence, you're taking these teachings, understanding sacred discipline, taking all of the different parts of Voltron so that your sword allows you to cut the cords to the negative frequencies, entities, beings, and things that are within your environment so they cannot exchange dirty energy with you. All right, so the next part here is I want to give everyone an opportunity to understand living the mystical life daily. And one of the teachings that I do is called the Sanctuary for All Souls. And the Sanctuary for All Souls is about regenerating heart space, dream space, the ability to advance our prayer, our joy of prayer, and then to understand who we were at birth and to reconnect to that self. This is a form of meditation teaching, and it is by design meant to be done in your own voice. So there'll be a PDF for you to download here so that you can practice this in your own voice. So what I've created is a way to go through a meditation process where you're going to be laying down or sitting up, and you're going to be hearing your own voice reading words that are part of a teaching about connecting to heart space, dream space, the joy of prayer, and the ability to live with fortitude in this world. Now, this is 4 aspects to it. They can be done individually or all at the same. All right, so everyone, just relax. Let's clear some of this old expectation energy out of here. And we're going to do this meditation teaching. And in the end, I'm going to take some questions. All right, I'll clear it out here. All right, everyone, take your shoes off, relax. Allow the frequency, the energy to raise even higher today. Allow yourself this. Take expectation away. Take the self-defeating programs away. Return to the sanctuary of all souls. This place is something that exists outside of time, outside of space, that is available for every sovereign being out there seeking healing, solace, and the regeneration of their soul. This place is your source connection. I want you to begin this visualization process that gives power and form and co-creation to the sanctuary of all souls. For when we return to the truth of the sanctuary of all souls, we understand. When we understand we are protected, can you give yourself that gift? The understanding of protection that you've had since your birth. Allow you to yourself to visualize what this place would look like. It would welcome you. On the very edge of the horizon line is a large pyramid with dozens of other structures around it. something the ancient knowingness inside your DNA has seen 1,000 times before on this world and millions of others. Use that imagery to begin the journey to the sacred pyramids of consciousness and wisdom, connected to Source incarnate now. Each step you take modifies your vision of Source, of your personal process of communion and union with Source. As you come closer to the structures, you see the pyramids, the statues, obelisks, and the great temple to the sun. Places to view the skies and the stars. This place is bustling with spiritual astronomers, consciousness explorers, people of wisdom, joy, and happiness. They welcome you to their space of sanctuary for all souls. For to get here means you have awareness of it. This is your key to being here, present in the sanctuary of all souls, your awareness. You are led to your personal regeneration chamber. It is a chamber of regeneration of heart space. You are given a set of instructions that tell you to go from this chamber to a garden, then to a prayer ground. This will be something you repeat in this place of sacred power of Source incarnate connection. Inside this chamber is a big pool of water, steaming water, warm. Allow yourself to let down and to go inside the water. Feel it encompassing your body. Allow it to bond with this current vision. You are in the chamber of regeneration of heart space. You are now making the conscious, active choice to spend 3 dream days and 3 dream nights in this place of water, solace, steam, and the regeneration of heart space. This is the I Am presence now. Allow the water to be the new pericardium, creating a duplicate I Am shell around your spirit framework. This will be the mechanism in which you empower your vision. So in this mighty moment of the now, you actually have spent 3 full dream days and 3 full dream nights during the time of this meditation. It is your individual choice to empower that vision for the next 3 dream spaces that you actually go through. Your next place that is on the list is the garden of the regeneration of dream space. You have left the first chamber. You're wearing comfortable clothes, walking through a courtyard, and the people are happy and full of joy, sharing wisdom. You stop at a corner and there is somebody offering food, some food for wisdom. What wisdom do you have to share to the vendor in the sanctuary of all souls? You have a bite to eat, knowing you've spent your full 3 dream days and full 3 dream nights inside the chamber of regeneration of heart space. This bite of food in the sanctuary of all souls reconnects you to the Great Spirit incarnate within. And now it is time for you to go back, research, and look for the mystery within yourself. You make your way to the garden of regeneration of dream space. Here are the most incredible gardens, flowers, plants, bushes, trees, in perfect unity and synchronicity of color. Allow yourself to visualize this incredible garden that is here to connect you to dreams. For that is the very purpose of these flowers, plants, and bushes. They have generated themselves in the sanctuary for all souls to reflect their perfect dream unity, asking for you to simply connect to it and share your dream space with it so it can cleanse, repair, renew, and regenerate your dream space, connected to your heart space, freeing you of the density of the world and allowing Source incarnate now to be a part of your dream space. Dedicate an entire dream afternoon basking in the sun, in the garden of regeneration of dream space. It will be your own self-disciplined service that empowers this vision to have the full dream day power behind it. It's your choice. The next on your list is the prayer grounds of regeneration of interconnectivity. You have spent a day in the sun with the flowers and plants, and now you know night is coming, asking you to connect to the different part of your soul. This journey I've described into the sanctuary of all souls is something that can be applied as a single teaching, individual, or at a higher level of personal co-creation. For what I'm doing is setting a stage, a metaphor in which your own creation can create your own source incarnate form of regeneration, so that we can all act at the highest form of life. I have been to the prayer grounds of meditation. I have been to the prayer grounds of interconnectivity, and they have taught me the most important lesson of all. Sacred source connection comes from the actions within. When you arrive at the prayer grounds, your knowingness is present. When you arrive at the prayer grounds, you are ready to pray. When you arrive at the prayer ground, you are ready to make even deeper forms of sacred communication than you've ever done before. Because you have been in the chamber of regeneration of heart space. You have been in the garden of dream space. Now can you play in the fields of clarity and begin to pray with Source itself? When you regenerate your interconnectivity with Source, it starts with the visualization of how we started as a fetus in our mother's womb. We were a heart that eventually grew arms and legs, a spine, a head, a brain, and we were born, and we forgot who we were as infinite beings. Our interconnectivity is part of the fetus in our mother's womb. Here's where we give prayers to the fetus in our mother's womb, knowing that it is us, still in infinite source connection, and us, the future micro-being, saying back to the processes we've went through. You are choosing to make interconnectivity a part of your self co-creation on these prayer grounds. This is where you tell your fetus in your womb your story, so that there is a comparison and contrast of all the myriad of agenda-based options the fetus has dreamed up and what actualized and was activated by the I am and free will that followed through. When you make that choice to fully update the fetus on the fullness and vastness of the life that you have lived, you are making interconnectivity the greatest part of your vision. You will need many prayers. Your wisdom is there. Your life force is there. It simply takes action to turn knowledge into more wisdom and vision. On the prayer grounds of regeneration of interconnectivity, you can use all forms of tools, because it is the sharing in the sanctuary space, the joy of prayer. And when you discover the joy of prayer, the next chamber will be ready for you. The next place in the sanctuary of all souls will be ready. It means you have reached a Unicode expression. Unity is now within your potential of self-activation through free will. You say, when you're ready, I am ready to re-enter the moment of my birth, where we will live as while I will live and learn what my first non-dream thought. This place of regeneration of eternal fortitude reconnects you to the fetus who is now a baby, who took their first breath in the sacred world before you were imprinted upon. This being who was just born, that has just had their sacks removed and all of the stuff cleaned off of them, and they're on their mother's heart, needs your wisdom, future self. Needs your prayers, future self, from the sanctuary of all souls before you were imprinted on, so you can know your infinite myriad of futures. By making your conscious application of the sacred, so that the fetus and the baby that has been born has been connected and interconnected at the moment of birth. There's an intense will to live, and this is what you must learn to connect to in the sanctuary of all souls. By giving the power to the vision of the sanctuary, by your visualization process, you are not giving away power to individuated beings. You are going to source itself, you as the fetus, the place where all souls come from for respite and protection and regeneration of heart space, dream space, and the interconnectivity and the drive and will and internal fortitude to take what it needs to live in this world. By doing this practice daily, the mystical will become part of your dream days and nights when you choose to spend in the regeneration of heart, dream, and internal connectivity and internal fortitude. In that chamber of heart space, you make yourself in this vision, spend full 3 dream days and 3 dream nights there. In that garden of regeneration of dream space, spend an entire day basking in the sun. Can you create that in your visualization of self-teaching? Because if you do, you will be the self-illuminated master. When you arrive at the prayer ground, do you have prayers that are ready to be said in the Sanctuary of All Souls prayer ground so you can regenerate your interconnectivity to all forms of existence? And once you've acknowledged all forms of existence, you move into this moment of birth. So this I am will live and go through the DNA activation of self-awareness. By expanding your self-awareness and using techniques like this, you will begin to have greater ability to transverse the multiverse. See you in the dream world. All right, everyone. Come on back to reality. Powerful teaching. The Living the Mystical Life Daily online course, there are 6 weeks of teachings that are just as powerful as this, that are meant to be used in these moments of self-healing, self-nurturing, and self-regeneration. Now we're going to take some questions. So let me look at the questions here. All right, so I have an interesting one here. All right, so I'm going to break this one down. My question is, if one has already turned every stone in the field of self-knowledge and empowerment, detox, etc., extensively, long questioned and transcended limited beliefs about life, humanness, self, way beyond current social consciousness, have been making time for meditation and daily practice for discernment and inspiration for many years, and yet can't seem to break through the manifestation patterns that seem to be on themselves. What's the hook? It's you. It's even in the way you're writing your question, you're arguing for a limitation, as well as selling yourself on what you have done. Each day you come to the training of the self, it's not about what you did yesterday. It's not about that. When you have great moments of victories, you honor them. So as I'm looking into the nature of your question and going to the energy frequency that is you, when is the last time you only honored your victories and looked at your defeats to understand what your own hook that is keeping you from at the next level? There's something in your energy frequency that is still self-defeating, still stopping you from transcending the other layers of limited beliefs. There is something that has gone on in your life that you must confront. Something that has gone on in your dream world that you must confront. Confront with love. And I think that's probably what you've been going through. Processing, healing, processing, healing, and never pausing and taking a break and using hindsight and seeing how much you changed. And it is a long question. And the hook here is getting back to the basics. You may not want to go back to the basics. And maybe that's your limitation. And maybe that's why. There's a nugget of something in the basics that you're missing that is making your end of journey far off of its original course. Think about that. Something in your basics has led you 1 degree off at the end of your journey. You're not at the port of self-arrival. You're north, south, east, west, in a different ocean. Have skills of a take that you got the journey. You've made the journey. But again, there's something that is in the fetus, in the womb, that has to be heard, a story, so you can uncover the next form of truth within yourself. I would highly recommend that you take the strategy and tactic of telling your story to the fetus in the womb while you're in deep meditation. That is you recording your own voice of as many stories of your life, the trials, tribulations, and defeats, so that you can hear your own voice and its power and use your discerning self inside yourself, who will have to go through the triggers as your own voice is using conscious application of the sacred to drag up the nugget that's been missed, the gold nugget that you can polish and then wear as a necklace of victory, of what it took to get to that next level. All right, so this next one's a little bit different. Hi, I'm wondering how to specifically handle self-hatred programs that seem to be threatening either physical harm to the self or some form of surprise, cost payment, or later vengeance that will be taken on the self. If one dares to take powerful spiritual steps to move out of deep-seated, seated family slavery programs when desiring to connect more to one's life path, sovereign oneness, you got to let go of them. I get this question written 20 billion different ways. Self-hatred. If you truly hate yourself, it's because you were taught to hate yourself. If something is threatening physical harm to the self, that is a program that is out of control and you need to excise from yourself. You need to deprogram. If something is going to cost you later and take you down the path of vengeance, the path of vengeance is a direct freaking choice. You really must go into the basics of spiritual hygiene. And when those thoughts come in, are they mine? Or is that an external source imprinting on me? Imprinting, like a commercial on the radio that's always playing, nah, hurt this, do that, kick the cat. Whatever it is, self-hatred, always whispering in your mind the shit that doesn't make you get better. And I use that word shit that doesn't make you get better because that's what you're choosing to listen to. Yeah, I know I can feel you going in desire and hatred and, oh, you can't say this to me. I can say what I experience, what I have learned as the essence of what it comes down of self-hatred. That it isn't you. It isn't you hating yourself. It's some other version of you creating a program so your ass can't be in your body, can't be empowered, can't use your free will. Kick the other people out. Make the moment sacred. Use a bit of that anger and that appearance of hatred to deny everything else services in any way, shape, or form. I would truly recommend for anyone that's in the self-hatred programs that knows they're part of themselves, that's going to use the whip and crack them and they're going to blow up on someone, to go and use the Union and Communion Consciousness Strike document and to read it with furious power. And I mean furious power. Because it is meant to truly excise those things that are forcing evolution down the path of charge and polarity. Okay, so we have one. Andrew, can you speak about what's going on with our son and the changes that we are going through? I can. This isn't the right forum for it, but I'll simply say, if one chooses to use the words spiritual photosynthesis and allow them to emanate energy, that of a tree that has leaves, you will truly understand what's going on with the sun. The sun doesn't care about our politics, dogmas, spiritual ideologies, or what cultures and disclosures we're going through. It doesn't function like that. And we as micro beings on the surface of the world that have had sun a part of our life, even while we were fetus in the womb, it is an ever-present, co-creative expression that is waiting for us to acknowledge it is light, light that we are always experiencing. And when we choose to journey to the sun, practice sacred discipline that brings us to the corona of the sun and to the spiritual connection that it is, an equal co-creation, non-competition, non-hierarchical order, you will understand what the sun changes are, what we are going through, and that each and every aspect of the sun is individuated for the singular micro experience of each being. And it's not about how the whole is affected, because your question is ultimately about the whole and how the whole can learn from the question. The whole cannot learn from the question because the whole has not become a collected collection yet. It is still a disunity, individuated, compartmentalized thing waiting for us, the I am, to acknowledge the sun as we are, past, present, and future, waiting for us to take up the legacy and the mantle of responsibility, to be fully sovereign photonic beings of light, aware of our multifunctional destiny and density on many different layers, able to coexist in thousands of suns and worlds if we should choose to hold that layer of self-responsibility, transversing the multiverse as universal and galactic citizens, awake and aware. Now, this next one, how can we love and be intimate while still protecting our energies from the negative energies of a partner? Well, I think that's a loaded question. If you're with a partner and they're full of negative energies and you already haven't taken the time to address it, whose fault is that? And why are you continuing to live with that? Why are you continuing not acknowledging it? Now, I can give examples of how to go through, but ultimately it comes back, if you truly want change, you have to look at yourself. Why you allowed those negative energies to be there. Maybe the person argues for their limitations or doesn't believe what you do. If they're not taking care of themselves, that's a codependent relationship, isn't it? And there is at some layer, you are exchanging your negative energies back with them. No matter how saintly you think your ass is, you are. This is the infinite point of view. And if they're sharing their negative energy with you, you're damn well sure at some layer of your awareness, you're dumping your garbage on them too. So it comes down to spiritual hygiene. Neutralize the strategy and the tactics so that the two of you can create a space in the bed that has rules, policies, procedures that says we leave the junk at the door, we leave the expectations at the door, and that when we're in this bed, sharing it in a sleeping space, we're there to both let down and share our love and heart space. And choose whatever ideological belief that you want, religion, expression that says and enforces that. Protect the four corners of the room. Get a little bit more I am serious. Lay salt at the top of the bed or the foot of the bed. Use crystals. The strategy and tactics of transformation and transmutation of what is that negative energy is there. And there are some out there going, oh, I don't share my negative energy with everyone. Bullshit. You do it every day and you just don't know it. I use these colloquial now, these verbalisms and euphemisms for a specific reason. So many of us that live in the spiritual world bullshit ourselves. And we fall for our own bullshit because we created an expectation that says, I will live like this, and you lived like that for 6, 7, 8 months, 9 months, a year, and then when a moment challenges and your awareness is down and bam, you shared your negative energy. It's inevitable. It is part of the trials and tribulations of this world. You do live in a world of charge and polarity, and you cannot be sacred neutral 24/7, 365. Otherwise, there's no point in being in this fucking world. No point. You do have to allow charge and polarity in, but it has to be with the strategy and tactics of love and joy behind it so that it does not own you, dominate you, and control you for your own future generations. I know that was much beyond that conversation, but I felt that it was necessary for those that are going through the next part of the journey here, who truly want to have their partner with them. If you really have an intimate partner that's full of negative energies and doesn't want to deal with it, that's your choice. You can't make them change. And if you try to make them change, you're using forced evolution on them. And if you are using forced evolution on them, you are doing them harm and stepping on their journey to make their own free will damn choice. No matter how hard-headed they want to be, at some point, you internally have to go, there is a limit. If there is no change, what is the point of this intimate relationship? So many people don't want to be alone. And that's ultimately why they don't create to change or make the opportunity for that person who is holding that negative energy just to open their head a little bit and go, I will do better. I will try. All right, so this next one's kind of cool. How can I bring the heart imagery and the heart coherent frequencies outside of the body, externalize them so that they can become a tool healing technique that I can use through my own art? So the first part is solidifying the imagery. So seeing the visualization process of you at the age that you are now and creating the artistic image of your age reducing until you are a fetus inside your own heart. Now, you can use that same creation while working on a client or a patient and use the out loud voice and words to describe to them. And in your visualization process can see them reduce in age into their heart or put them into the fetus in their mother's womb or their own womb. And there's an incredible way to use this as artistic impression because the fetus sees in many different points of view. Now, as a healing technique, understanding the fetus has full access to all the synaptic endings. When you're working on the modern person, there are detours in the synapses, broken pathways, traumas, etc. The fetus has the original blueprint where all the pathways are and all the bypasses, as well as can literally blow out all the negative stuff inside the synaptic nerve endings, and then you can grasp it and literally remove it. That is known as stale electrical conductivity energy for people that have been suffering from bad pH in their body, super low, super high, different parts of their intestinal tract, each having an aspect of pH that is causing acidity, or the acidity of the blood, or the water in the blood is so acidic or burnt out, meaning they hold on to their water for as long as they can and drink as little water as possible. And after a while, their pH lowers and lowers and lowers until they are nothing but water that can barely conduct any electrical process. And we are electromagnetic, light-driven beings, and we need our sacred waters to be programmable and full of life so that we can expand and explore life. So looking at how the mind programs water through the heart and the fetus, through the synaptic nerve endings, cleansing out the water around the pericardium and the lymph nodes, and giving the blood programming. So those are a way that you can make it your healing art, as well as a variety of other ways. Spiritual hygiene. This is their question. I'm sure contract revocations are a part of spiritual hygiene. Yes, those are the 101, 102, and 103, as well as the PhD. When one sees the contract revocations as part of the strategy and tactic, then the application of them is the transmutation transformation process. And the transcendence, There are contract revocations such as the Revocation AIS or the Grove of the Patriarchs or the Matriarchs or the Dreamtime Clearing or the Galactic and Universal Meditations that are in the Living the Mystical Life online course. Those are all transform and transcendence and tactic and strategy driven things. It's how the I Am sets up to use them so that the individuated teachings that are read to you in your own voice and your own power create transmutation, transformation, and then ultimately transcendence of the self. Alrighty. We have had quite a few good questions here. How do those who have gone into isolation learn to love the world again? This is going to be the last question that I'm going to do. First thing first, if you've gone into isolation, you've lost your social system, your social programs. You've lost how to learn how to make friends and maintain it. You've become a hermit and you've lost social skills. And if you truly don't love this world, you've gone into a form of spiritual depression. This is where you've got to build your own stairway out of the despair that you created. Yes, there may be external factors that whack-a-moled you down. Forgive them, because it is only you that can forgive whatever external thing has taken the baseball bat to your energy field. It is only you that can determine if your pride, the injury of your pride, has driven you in depression. It is only you that can let go of a trauma and heal it. It is only you who can go on the shamanic practice of journeying to journey out of your despair and to fill that pit of despair up with dirt and bless it and say, I'm never going back there. You do have to learn to live in the world again. You do have to learn to love the world again because you chose to go into abject fear and isolation that the world didn't understand you. No matter what label of hermitsy you have lost your social skills. Earn them back. Get out there in the world and stop believing that everyone's an asshole and gonna beat you up. That's something you took on from others or something the world beat within you, or whatever is in between. Get out of isolation. Figure out what puts you in isolation. What teacher said, go and live by yourself in the woods with nothing, and that was right? No, it wasn't. Forgive yourself for being in isolation and move out of isolation. Move back into the world. No matter how hard it is, no matter how much doubt and fear you have in yourself, no matter how much those self-defeating programs saying, if you go back into the world, blah, 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 blah. Suck it up, buttercup. Live in the world. You were born in this world for a reason. You have spiritual contract. There's loves that are out there waiting for you if you should choose them. Stop taking self-defeat and isolation as the cake that's being given to you that's full of rot and bees. Your choice. Eat the crap sandwich that you've been serving yourself, or go out there and have a 7-course meal in the city. That's a lot of very powerful questions. So I want to talk to people about the Living the Mystical Life Daily online course. This online course is a 6-week course, and it is about learning the out loud, name it to claim it system. It is about learning the meditation teaching system. Inside the course, you're provided with nearly 100 pages of documents that are meant to be read out loud by yourself, to be recorded by yourself, that are meant to be used in your ceremonies, so that you have a regular practice of how to apply the strategy and tactics in the moment to get out of self-defeat, self-isolation, or any forms of expectation that limit your point of view. So there are a variety of teachings in there that are about the peacekeeper and the peacemaker, learning how to dream with the self, creating terms and definitions about the blood, learning about the shaman's death. It's a 6-week training course with over 10 hours of teaching that would normally cost $15,000 of private sessions. But for only $997, you get this advanced training delivered to your inbox every week for 6 weeks. And you get to keep them forever and watch them over and over again to be sure that your change in life goes. As part of buying the Living the Mystical Life Daily, you will get a bonus of the Alchemy course, a $197 value. This alchemy course is an all-encompassing expression of how to change the energy around yourself and your environment. You'll learn in-depth information on how crystals can change your environment and how the bioelectric life force illuminates everything around us. And as a second bonus, you will get the Equinox and Solstice course, $147 value. You'll learn about growth, renewal, change, shedding of the old. These are some of the words that we use to describe the cycles of nature. They are also cycles that we can use with ourselves to become the embodiment of what these words mean. It's about a new life, new beginning, growing into new potentials and realities through your ceremonies. You'll learn exactly how to create those in this course. And the third bonus, you'll get 2 tuition waivers to Living the Mystical Life Daily Live Seminar, a $1,994 value. This live seminar is a gathering of masters on the path of illumination. You'll get to interact with people just beginning and those who have been doing the greater work for ages. This is where I, the Andrew of the Now, brings the magic and gets with you, helps you see the collective energies, the higher states of consciousness, and transforms it. This is literally the high point of the year in the training. The next event is October 5th through the 8th, 2017 in Seattle, Washington. So by purchasing, you'll get the 2 tuition waivers, the 2 bonuses, and there is no tuition fee for you. You'll save $1,994. I offer this because I know this course will help everyone. Though you will have to pay a one-time $97 materials fees if you do want to attend the live event. That's the only thing that we're asking, is that you confirm that you're going to be there. And you get all of this as part of Living the Mystical Life Daily. That's over $2,300 bonuses. And on top of that, and the best part, you're totally satisfied. If you're not totally satisfied with the course, you can just email us and ask for a refund in 30 days. That's right, a 30-day money-back guarantee. And you have nothing to lose and everything to gain. So click on the button below the screen for more information and to join the course. If for some reason you don't see it appear, just refresh your page and you'll see the button. It's been an honor to be here with you. Thank you for your questions and comments, and make sure to live every moment mystical. I'll see you on the next show.